I seriously do not want to hurt you or hurt you in any kind of way. Thank you very much. All right. Give me 5. Yes. That deserves your own, like, yes, very good. Awesome. That was super fast. Okay, so we are going over Weirdwood Manor, right? So what has happened so far? There's a boy named Oliver. He won a competition and he is going to the place he's winning that competition, right? What else has happened? He looked at what was special about the book he looked into. Why was that special that he looked into it? Why did that drive him to go open it? What about it was like, I've got to open this book? The Edelines, right? Can anybody help him out with that? Why was the book so important? Right, because he thought he was alone this entire time, right? Like he draws these things come to life, and then he comes across something that looks exactly like what he's been drawing. And it supposedly has answers in it. Wouldn't you want to open it?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so do you think he's the only person who won? We had that in our predictions. Did we think that he was the only person who won the competition? No. We're going to meet the other 2 people who won the competition. We're going to meet Eugene and we're going to meet Celia today. Okay? But before we do that, I know when a lot of people meet new people, they tend to get what?
Nervous.
Good job. Thank you, Mary. So I wanted to go through a little bit about what dread is because it's important that you understand that so you can get a concept of how Oliver is feeling while he's talking to the people. And more importantly, I want you to get a concept of what it's not. Okay, so I'm going to start off. The actual definition, according to Webster, is to fear greatly, to feel extremely reluctant to meet or face. Now, can somebody give me their version of the definition based on this is what Webster said?
Like,
You don't want to do it. You feel uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's more than just like, I'm a little iffy, right? Dread is a really powerful word. It's kind of like, I don't like you or I hate you, right? I mean, it's dread. I mean, that just almost makes your skin tingle. All right, examples. Mine, he's dreading the test because he's sure he's going to fail. If you're about to take a test and you're going to fail, do you think you feel a little nervous about it? Not really want to do it? Somebody else give me an example of dread. Maybe some dread that you have felt. Anybody else have a dread example? You dread me calling on you if you don't open your hand? Nobody has dread anything?
no.
Not once. You have not gone into any kind of situation and felt dread, felt nervousness or fear of doing it? Yes. Give me an example. No, give me an example of the gymnastics. Like, were you dreading doing the moves, learning them for the first time? Were you dreading performing in front of somebody? How are you dreading gymnastics? Or do you just seriously have a fear of gymnastics in and of itself? And you're like, I don't want to go anywhere near gymnastics. Yes, exactly. So you're kind of like shaking, right? Which brings us to the next one. Characteristics for me. I get a heavy feeling in my stomach, or I get like butterflies in my stomach when I'm feeling dread. Does anybody else feel like there's no way I could eat anything because so much is in my stomach because I'm just so nervous or I'm so reluctant to do anything? You guys, anybody felt that? Can anybody else come up with a characteristic of dread? A what? A roller coaster. Oh, it's very dreadful. How were you when you got on the roller coaster? How were you feeling? Like what physical characteristics were you doing? Were you shaking a little bit? Your hands sweating? Yeah. Oh, anybody else have any characteristics that you find under dread? Like, think about it. If you were to see a person that was full of fear and anxiety of doing something, what would they look like? Would they look like this?
No.
Would they look like this maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, why? Why would this be a symbol? Scared. They're shy, they don't want to go. Kind of like a shy look, like a scared look. Yes, I love it. Sweaty palms, maybe. Not that you guys go up and check out palms, but you might notice your own are starting to sweat due to dread. All right, and non-examples, the one I want most important. What is not dread? Because I know when we look at words, we want to know the meanings, but sometimes it's just as important to realize what it doesn't mean. So if something is not dreadful, it is. Yes. Like tonight, what's happening tonight? Is anybody in here dreading it? Is anybody in here super obvious and eager to go?
Yeah.
Would that be the opposite of dread? Yes. So something else. Give me another example. Something that would be the opposite of dread. Going to a birthday party. How does that make it not dreadful? Because for some people that would be. How does that make it not dreadful? Give me an example of how that's not dreadful. Totally lost you. That's okay. Anybody can give me an example that's not dreadful? Yes. Yes, you feel comfortable, right? It's a comfortable place. If you fall on your face in front of these people, it doesn't really matter, right? Because they're your really good friends. So you're not nervous about being around them. Love it. All right. So are we getting kind of the concept of what Oliver's feeling? He's going to feel a ton of dread meeting these people. Okay. Now, let's go into Weirdwood Manor. Hemsworth has just told us that he does not like Oliver trying to break into cabinets and read books that are really super important to him. And he's following them down to go meet the other two. And here we are. They soon arrived at what appeared to be a sort of reading nook. Plush sofas and lavish chairs were arranged in a cozy semicircle beside the towering bookshelves. A boy and a girl both stood up as they approached. The boy had thick glasses, a funky brown bowler hat. He gave Oliver a big, excited grin as they drew near. The girl was pretty, very pretty. She smiled politely and nodded at Oliver. He smiled back, then looked quickly away. He felt his cheeks starting to go red and got really annoyed with himself. He hoped she hadn't noticed. Master Oliver Griffin, announced Hemsworth, I'd like you to meet Master Eugene Donald and Miss Celia May. He bowed slightly as the children said their hellos. And, children, if you'll excuse me, I shall go to prepare your rooms. Miss Brimley? He nodded at them crisply and exited the hall with smooth mechanical grace. Amazing, right? The boy Eugene said in a hushed voice. They say he used to be a real man, but he had some sort of gruesome accident, and now he's like 90% mechanical. He leaned in closer. Even some of his brain is robot now. Right, Barmy, if you're asking me. Brimley interrupted before Oliver could ask what Barmy meant. All right, children. Mr. Weirdwood will be joining us in just a few minutes, but in the meantime, why don't we get to know each other a bit? Have a seat. She waved us to sit down. Oliver took a seat on one of the Chesterfields and was surprised when Celia sat down next to him. He tried to just relax, playing cool, but he could feel his cheeks starting to get red again. So annoying, he thought. Oh, that looks like quite a sunburn you have there, said a sweet, sympathetic voice beside him. Oliver's insides twisted at the almost musical quality of her voice. He turned to her with a shy smile. Oh, thanks. I mean, yeah, it's not actually a sunburn per se, just kind of warm in here. And he trailed off when he caught the teasing smile in her eyes. Oliver thought he was going to die of embarrassment. Thankfully, Miss Brimley began to speak. So how about we all share a bit about who we are and how we got here? Who would like to start? Eugene's hand shot up and he began speaking even before Miss Brimley had a chance to acknowledge him. So I'm Eugene, spelled the normal way, if there's a normal way to spell Eugene. He chuckled at his own joke. Anyway, I'm pretty much the world expert on all things sci-fi and fantasy. Books, TV, movies, RPGs, ARGs, MMOs, you name it, I know it. Oh, but I don't do vampires. Don't get me started on how they ruined vampires. Although you'd probably like him now, wouldn't you, Celia? Celia just snorted at him. He pulled something that looked like a pin out of his pocket and twirled it in his fingers. Fingering, that's my joy, my life, how do the Frenchies say, my raison d'etre? Raison d'etre, corrected Celia, in perfect Parisian French. Right, anyway, it's how I get me giggles. These days I'm building working replicas of my favorite sci-fi gadgets. This little boot right here is my ticket to Weirdwood. 20 points to the first person who guesses what it is. He paused. After a somewhat awkward silence, Miss Brimley hazarded a guess. Well, it looks like a pin of sort. Eugene looked a little disappointed, but only for a moment. Yes, well, I suppose it does have that function too. 5 points for making yourself heard, Miss Brimley. He brightened, twirled the device again, and held it out for all to see. This, my newfound friends, is a fully functional replica of the Pinger gun from the world's best sci-fi series in history of The Amazing Who. Watch this. He snapped his hand forward in a dramatic pose as a beam of green light shot out from the Pinger gun and in onto Oliver's chest. Brimley let out a shriek, and Celia gave Oliver a look of surprised horror. He looked down and saw a fleshy round hole in the middle of his chest. Eugene chuckled as he flicked the device, and the hole disappeared. Brilliant, right? The Amazing Who's death ray. Just a trick, though, as it doesn't actually cause death or anything. Really, just a simple matter of post-refraction projection. Oh, and check this out. Eugene flicked another switch. A half-dozen ghouls appeared out of nowhere and began to swoop around the room with horrible, if somewhat tiny-sounding groans. Oliver shivered as one of the ghosts flew through him. From certain angles, they looked kind of flat and distorted, but still, this was really impressive stuff. Eugene was grinning from ear to ear as he watched his ghastly creations float around the room. Season 8, Episode 14 of The Amazing Who, when the Dr. Evil Win, who had trapped Who in Werecage, released a whole whack of were-ghosts who were confused about where they were and caused a whole world of woe for the warriors of Witchwood. Eugene took a deep breath. Now, that's good programming and alliteration. Oliver put his hand through one of the were-ghosts. So are they holograms or? Eugene's eyes lit up. Actually, there's something better. I call them specters. Spectrum, phase, electrocoil, teleoptical resonance systems. I'm going to submit the plans to the Young Inventors World Congress this year. Anyway, the real fun is getting them back into the Pinger gun. Here, Oliver, why don't you give it a try? Eugene deftly tossed the device to Oliver, who just barely caught it. It was heavier than it looked, but more surprising was that it buzzed with that strange yet familiar power that always accompanied one of Oliver's visions. Eugene misread his hesitation and said, right, just push the wee button on the left there and get to second those ghastly ghoulies right back into the Pinger gun. Oliver handed the Pinger gun back to Eugene. That was awesome. Thanks, mate. Knuckle bump of well-respect. The two boys bumped knuckles and sat down beside each other. Oliver thought that Eugene was probably the oddest, nerdiest, and yet somehow the coolest person he'd ever met. Well, that was wonderful, Eugene. Brimley clasped her hands together and gave Eugene a proud smile. Those were-ghosts were really quite good. Of course, in real life. It would be horribly impolite to go around sucking them up like that. They're terribly sensitive creatures, you know. Eugene gave Brimley a confused look, but she continued. Celia, how do you feel about going next? Celia nodded and stood up. Eugene leaned over and whispered in Oliver's ear. Now, there's a Babosaurus if I've ever seen one. I'm going to make a move. Chicks go nuts for nerds these days. 'Tis the age of the dweeb, my friend. She's not really my type, Oliver said, which wasn't a total lie. Talented, intelligent, beautiful girls tended to avoid Oliver like the plague. He figured he wouldn't get on well with someone who treated him like a disease. Eugene sat back and cracked his knuckles. Great, then it's settled. His smug smile annoyed Oliver way more than it should have. Celia cleared her throat and stood poised, as if she was about to deliver a speech or perform a monologue. My name is Celia May, and I am a writer. Every word she said was perfectly articulated, and even though her voice was soft, it seemed to carry to every corner of the room. My latest work is an award-winning novel called Song of the Black Moth. It's a story about a girl, a fragile creature who falls deeply in love. The desire for her beloved eats away at her mind, body, and soul until she becomes a mere shadow of the creature she once was. Then in the shadowlands where she has come to dwell, she finds herself anew as she learns to embrace the difficult truth that love is tragedy unaware. Oliver was surprised. He didn't think of himself as an overly emotional person, but something in her words just got him right in the guts. He looked over at Eugene, who was rubbing his eyes and muttering something about ninjas cutting onions. Miss Brimley blew her nose loudly into a lacy handkerchief. Celia's posture relaxed, and the entrancing nature of her words seemed to fade. That's just a rough overview. Of course, it's much more thoughtful and heart-wrenching tragic than the brief description would allow. I've actually already won a few competitions with it, including this one. It comes out in hardcover in a couple months, but if you'd like to read it sooner, I did bring a few extra copies. Brimley finished wiping the tears from her eyes and said, "That was beautiful, Celia. Magnificent. I can't wait to read it. Oh, and I wish we had more time for you to share, but Arthur will be here any moment, and we've yet to hear from Oliver." She turned to Oliver and winked encouragingly. "Your turn, Mr. Artiste." This was a moment Oliver was dreading. What was the word we just went over? Just dreading, fulfill the word dread. So why would this be the moment he's dreading? Now that we've already seen the other two and we've seen some things, give me a reason why Oliver might be dreading this moment right now. But why is he nervous? Yes, they're brand new people and he's about to show them artwork. And artwork is very personal, right? I find my artwork to be very personal. Okay, yes. Why else would he might be nervous or dreading this moment? Oh, because he might have a crush on Celia, right? And he's a little dreadful about her not liking what he makes. Yes, very good. I love that you saw that in there. Yes. It's a lot to follow up on, right? I mean, he just had somebody who did something that I don't think an adult could do. I mean, using the projection and stuff like that, that's just not something you come up with. And the award-winning novel, and he's got to go after that. Yes, that would be, oh man, that would fill me with so much anxiety and dreadfulness. I agree. Yes, why else might he be feeling dreadful? Yes, he's worried that he might mess up because these people you think he wants to impress?
Yes.
Right. So if you want to impress somebody, are you going to be worried that you might mess up in front of them? All right, let's see how he does. Let's see if his dread was warranted. What did he have that could possibly compare with Eugene's Pendergun or Celia's award-winning novel? Sure, he had some fairly decent sketches, but other than the weirdy competition, they had never won him any awards or book deals. Up until now, they had mostly just gotten him in trouble. He cleared his throat and could feel his cheeks start to flush yet again. "Well, I'm Oliver. My last name is Griffin, but some people call me Oliver Twist because, well, I'm an orphan. So," he gave them a lame smile. Eugene chuckled politely, and Brimley gave Oliver an encouraging thumbs up, which only made him feel even more pitiful. Celia, on the other hand, just chewed her nails and looked generally disinterested. Oliver's cheeks reddened even more. He gritted his teeth, more bothered by his own reaction than by Celia's inattention. "Anyway," Oliver picked up his sketchbook, "it's nothing like your award-winning stories or your super cool inventions, but I guess Arthur, that is Mr. Weirdwood, liked my drawings enough to invite me along, so here they are." He passed his sketchbook to Eugene. He hadn't thought he would feel so nervous about sharing his work, but Celia and Eugene were two of the most talented people he'd ever met. He braced himself for their reactions. "Holy hand grenades," said Eugene. It's unbelievable, mate. I swear it's looking right at me." He moved the sketchbook from side to side as if he was checking to see if the monster's eyes would indeed follow him. Both Celia and Miss Brimley came and looked over Eugene's shoulders. "Huh," said Celia, somewhat surprised. "That's actually pretty good." She looked at Oliver with a sly smile. "Nice one, Sunburn." "Celia," Brimley tisked, then turned to Oliver. "Oh, Oliver, these are spectacular. I mean, Spectacular! Eugene turned to another page and examined it closely, then sat bolt upright. Oh, it just moved. The little fucker just winked at me. Brimley laughed. Oh, Eugene, you tease. But really, Oliver, these drawings are incredibly realistic. Eugene cleaned his glasses, then squinted at the drawing suspiciously. Oliver grimaced. It was rare for his drawings to come alive like others, but when they did, people tended to react poorly when faced with imaginary monsters who just jumped out of the sketchbook. He said a silent prayer. They flipped through the pages, oohing and awing until something fell out. Amazing, Miss Brimley said, picking up the page and holding it out for the others to see. Wow, said Celia. Jiminy Cricket's great at Mildred, Eugene gagged. Brimley was holding the letter from Merrill Buxley in her hands, staring at the great dragon who had taken over the page. Oliver hesitated, but when that familiar dark feeling started to creep back, he snatched the paper away from her and stuffed it roughly in his pockets. The feeling subsided. Sorry, Miss Brimley, he said. It's just that, well, that one's not ready yet. He smiled apologetically. What? Eugene sputtered. That was like the best one of the lot. Come on, Oliver, give us another peek. Brimley gave Oliver a strange look and was just about to say something when Arthur, the great Arthur Weirdwood, the world's best known author, inventor, and artist, entered the room. Dun, dun, dun. And we are leaving on a cliffhanger. Okay, I have a quick question for you guys. We're telling how many times Oliver almost dies. Wait. I want your opinion. When he was hit with the pentagon and he had like a fake circle in like a fake looked like he had a big hole in his stomach. Does that one count or does that one not count? No. Wait. We're gonna take a vote because I can see both ways. So if you think it counts, raise your hand. Okay, it's not going to count. That's okay. He'll have more than enough time later that he's almost going to die, so it's fine. Okay, wait. I want to preach on one last thing. We had mentioned the reasons why Oliver might be dreading. There's one that came up that I think we didn't touch on, but I think was super important. Why was he so nervous about them holding the dragon? Or about the fact that Eugene was looking really closely at the picture that he thought had winked at him? I mean, that's a fair thing, right? A little afraid that the dragon might come out, might like one of his arts might, show up. Could that be a reason that he might be dreading this, that the things that have ruined his life up till now will come alive against these people and hurt them, and then it'll ruin it again? That's a real reason to dread, right? Right?
Yeah.
Yes, go for it.
He wasn't even actually supposed to have the paper.
Ooh, because that dragon wasn't actually the dragon that he drew. Ah, I could see that, how that could be a way that he was dreading. Yes. Oh, he's worried that he might have seen it. Ah, because these people are, ooh, that is a way I haven't thought about it before. He's worried that because he saw the Eadling before that he didn't know anybody else had seen. Now this guy has seen the dragon and he's like, oh no, if that one is about a bunch of people. Interesting. I have not thought. I love your viewpoint on that. Okay. Next week we are doing more. We're going to finally meet Mr. Arthur Weirdwood and we're going to find out a little bit about his story. If you want to know his prequel, if you want to know the story of him when he was a kid, they actually have 3 prequel books out. Prequel means like before this story. So they have stories, they have books, not audio, not artificial reality books like this, but you flip the pages books of Mr. Arthur Weirdwood and how he became in charge of Weirdwood Manor. So if you're interested in that, I know that book 1 is in the library and I have 2 and 3 if you want to borrow them. I think the stories are really cool and it gives you a good grasp about what's going on. All right, this is next class. Please stand up and go line up and do the walk. You are very and welcome.
Miss Heinzelman.
Yes.
Showed up in the background.
Yes. Hold on. Let me stop this really fast.
That's me.
That is you. I know.
Wait, is this live? Is this live?